Hello and welcome everyone to this live demo session on SAP Business Technology Platform training with CAPM Cloud Application Programming Model on SAP Cloud Platform Cloud Foundry. So why there are too many names here? So recently SAP announced a change of name to their SAP Cloud Platform to SAP Business Technology Platform. So that's the new name. And now we have also the Cloud Application Programming Model, which is a preferred programming model in SAP Cloud Platform using Node.js. So in this training, we are going to talk about the core concepts of Cloud Foundry and how do you as a developer can start building complete native cloud application on SAP Business Technology Platform with CAPM. Along with that, we will also learn some of the very important concepts like SAP Cloud Platform native development using HANA database and HDI containers. We will also talk about the CI/CD pipeline and as well as building extensions which are side-by-side extensions to your existing S4HANA system in SAP Cloud Platform. Throughout this training, we will also talk about the core concepts of security, the access UAA and app router, and also the Fiori of development using CAPM in SAP Cloud Platform. So let's get started with our developer persona. Who is this course for? So Alex, who is a software engineer or a technical advocate or an SAP enthusiast who is currently working at Anubhav Trainings. He's a 30-year-old male and MS from computer science. He wants to learn and design applications and architect applications on cloud platform, and his company and manager is asking him to kind of give a guidance about what should be the way forward if we want to start developing applications in the cloud. Also explore the benefits of using cloud platform and as well as explore and provide options and opportunities in SAP Business Technology Platform with open source technologies. So his main job role is to provide best in class software solutions to their client, and his core skills are ERP, data structure, programming language, cloud, and machine learning. Main area of interest of work for Alex is S4HANA, Fiori, Java, Node.js, MongoDB, and Cloud Platform. So how do we help Alex today to understand how can he create his first native cloud application using SAP Business Technology Platform? Now, if you put yourself into shoe of Alex, you can visualize yourself also as one of the technical consultant working in industry and would like to build applications just the way Alex would want to do. So this is the training which is designed for Alex as he would like to grow his career into SAP field and want to learn the latest technological advancement with SAP Cloud Platform. As you all know, that business technology platform is going forward the main choice for developers to develop applications which natively runs on cloud. So what is exactly Cloud Foundry? So once again, let's try to understand the basics, the core of what is Cloud Foundry. This is perhaps the most asked question to me in my other trainings. What is Cloud Foundry and how for a developer persona or a developer point of view, how do we visualize Cloud Foundry? Now, let's imagine you as a developer would like to build a software. Now, to build a software, what are all the things you would need practically to get started? Of course, the very first set of things which you would need is operating system, and that will be installed on a server or on a computer. Basically, you would need a storage space, the RAM, the hard disk, the computing power, the CPU, and the networking, which gives you the desired connectivity. So all of that, the first set of things you would need. Then if I don't want to set up all of this and don't want to go ahead and buy an expensive hardware, can I ask somebody else to provide that to me? So that is what we will discuss in a minute. Then on top of this infrastructure, you would need a database, a middleware which supports different queuing mechanism, different deployment mechanism, and also the programming runtime. So programming runtime could be ABAP or Node.js or Java. So that could be your programming runtime, which is what also as a developer Alex would need. Then the third thing which Alex would do is to finally use data, create the data structures, create the data dictionary objects, create the necessary database artifacts and views, and then build services and finally build applications on top of that service. So broadly, if you work as a developer, you would also need whole list of these things at your door, basically, to get started with developing an application. Now the question comes is, uh, instead of having all these things arranging step by step, which is going to take a lot of time for me, can I get this some of these things out of the box from somewhere else? For example, my first question is, can I rent out a complete environment which is going to help me to arrange the necessary operating system, the virtualization, the server, the storage space somewhere on the internet? And that's where comes is the first cloud service, infrastructure as a service, which is what provided by some of these key players: Azure, AWS, GCP, and Alibaba. So they are the one who will provide you the necessary infrastructure. So basically you can go ahead to Amazon and say, hey Amazon, I would want to rent out a computer for like which has about 1000 gigs of RAM. And Amazon says, oh wow, no problem, I have it already with me and I can give you it on a subscription basis with just like $50 a month. Now imagine if you got to do that yourself from market. If you go and buy a computer which perhaps support 1000 gigs of RAM, it's going to be a lot of upfront investment for you, which is what you don't want to do it at the moment. You wanted to start with something quickly, something which without really bothering about the infrastructure, you want to rent it out on the computer. So that's what is the first offering in the cloud, called infrastructure as a service. Then similarly, the above three things, runtime, middleware, and database, if you want it, I can again ask the same question, can somebody give me this as well? So that's where comes is a lot of these players who offer platform as a service. Now, now the Cloud Foundry, which is a Pivotal's product, is also offer a same thing, a similar environment where you will just go to Cloud Foundry, which is a Pivotal product, and you say, hey, can you give me a ready to use development environment which I can use quickly for my development? And the Pivotal is going to provide you a Cloud Foundry environment where you have already different runtime present which can execute your program. You have database options to choose from. You can choose MongoDB, or maybe example a MySQL, or maybe a PostgreSQL, Elephant database. So there are a variety of options you can choose there. So platform as a service provider will give you a ready to use or ready configured environment where you can go ahead and write code and compile the code and test the code. So basically, end-to-end life cycle starting with design, development, testing, deployment, and maintaining of application is all managed in the cloud through the platform as a service. So that's what is provided by Cloud Foundry, which is part of a Pivotal. And at the same time, what they made here is this platform as an open source, so that anyone can, if they want their own platform, any company want their own platform to be implemented, they can reuse the features of Cloud Foundry and they can build their own platform as a service, which can then be provided to developers like Alex who are willing to develop applications on cloud. So that's when finally, if you look at, LX doesn't really need to take care or focus on the computers or hardwares or runtimes. Rather, what LX does is it goes and he gets a fully ready landscape with the complete infrastructure, whatever infrastructure he is looking for, whatever RAM size, operating system configuration he's looking for, plus the runtime environment. So that's what actually the Pivotal's Cloud Foundry provides you. Now, how it is different from SAP Cloud Foundry? So what SAP did is they got this implementation, they got this definition of Cloud Foundry, the platform as a service, and then on top of this, they have added their own backing services like HANA as a service, like RabbitMQ as a service, like ABAP as a service. You might have heard about ABAP on cloud. So maybe some of you attended my ABAP on cloud training. So SAP adds more services to this particular platform as a service, and then it is called then as a SAP Business Technology Platform, where you have different databases and runtimes and programming ways of doing development for developers. And this, you get it a fully ready configured landscape with including reusable services to start developing. So Alex doesn't really need to bother about all that. Alex can create a free trial account with SAP Cloud Foundry today itself, and he can just uh, focus on his data model as well as his application, including services. So that is what SAP Cloud Foundry is all about. It's basically an implementation of Pivotal's open source standard for cloud platform as a service on top SAP's own services like HANA database as a service, or example like ABAP runtime as a service. And then on top, SAP also provides recommendation and gold standard, the golden rules or golden path for developing applications on cloud, which includes the framework like RAP or CAPM, which is what you can use on top of it when it comes to developing an application and getting rapid application development done with industry proven best practices. So let's understand the benefits. So first benefit here is lower total cost of ownership. So initially the initial investment done by Alex is very low. In fact, he can start today itself a trial account and develop a application into SAP's cloud platform, Cloud Foundry, which is now known as Business Technology Platform. Then Alex can achieve scalability. So for example, Alex want to support more users or more memory space, then he can scale up and scale down. So there is a vertical scaling as well as horizontal scaling concept. We are going to talk about it. It fully leverage microservice architecture. So we will also discuss in our next class what is microservice, and then you'll understand uh, how how easy is to design a microservice and let these microservices communicate between each other through the network. Then we have choice of options. So Alex get variety of options. So perhaps Alex may be not from SAP ABAP background, but would have worked on industry as a developer on Java. So he can also use Java as a programming language for his choice, and he can use one of the Java frameworks like Hibernate or Spring to develop applications. Or Alex may be working as a JavaScript developer, he can ramp himself up on Node.js, and then he can also choose that to develop an application. Doesn't need to be bound to one particular technology out there. He can choose variety of database options, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, then we have SQLite, and we have perhaps the HANA HDI. So a lot of these options we have for Alex. Then he get a speed. He really don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure as well as platform or the runtimes. Alex can go to Cloud Foundry and say, hey, I would want a Java runtime or a Python runtime. And then the Cloud Foundry prepares the desired runtime for Alex. So he gets the speed in development. He focus mainly on development, not on the infrastructure or not on the runtimes. He doesn't have to set up path variables, doesn't have to configure programming languages or build packs. He can directly get started with the development. In fact, he can also fully leverage the tools offered by SAP Cloud Platform like Business Application Studio, where Alex can right away go ahead and start writing code and immediately execute this code and test it. Then we have also the innovation. So it's an innovation without disruption. Basically, if you want to do the extension of your existing ERP, then every new upgrade may break your extension or vice versa. But if he does this development outside the ERP, yet remains integrated with the ERP system, then Alex would also get an innovation done without disruption outside of S4. For example, this is called S4 on a side-by-side extension. So we will also cover this as part of our training, how to develop a side-by-side extension to the S4 HANA by consuming APIs offered by SAP into Cloud Platform using Node.js. So that is what also we will be discussing in this training throughout. So let's understand quickly what's inside the Cloud Foundry. So maybe a big diagram here to just understand, but just let me cover this in a nutshell. So all in all, if you see from a developer point of view, you have different options to start your development using these tools like Business Application Studio. Then you will log in into the cockpit. This is where you will manage your organization quotas, spaces, dev space, queue space, and prod space. And then you have this programming runtime support for HTML5, XS Advanced, Java, Node.js, Python, and you can build your add your own build pack. So it also supports now Go language. Go language is the new Google's programming language, which is really very, very powerful. So you can deploy even a Go language application to the Cloud Foundry now. And then on top of it, you see there are a lot of services plus SAP delivered services like SAP HANA as a service. You have SAP ESC. You have a lot of SAP specific services. Then you get complete application development experience with lifecycle management, including the pipelines you can configure for continuous innovation, continuous delivery. Then on the left side, you can integrate with on-premise system, or on the right side, you can integrate with other systems which are in the cloud. So then you have, of course, infrastructure at the bottom, infrastructure as a service, and on top of it, you have all these different backing services for authentication and authorization management, including data management. A lot of these different services, we do have it out there on the Cloud Foundry. So this is in a nutshell broadly the overall architecture inside the SAP Cloud Platform or Business Technology Platform with Cloud Foundry. So now we will start with CAPM today. So in today's demo session, I will show you building a small application end to end through CAPM. Now, why CAPM? What is the sole purpose, and what is CAPM indeed? So CAPM is nothing but it's a cloud application programming model, which is a framework of languages, libraries, tools for building enterprise grade applications. So CAPM based projects benefit from primary focus on domain. So you as a developer more focus on your business knowledge, business functionality, and not on too many technical stuff. So that's the main goal here. You don't have to worry about underlying infrastructure or the deployment. Let the CAPM takes care of all this for you, and you just do it a certain way, the golden path, and you develop in an agnostic way. Agnostic way means, for example, today you develop an application, it runs on SQLite database, and tomorrow you want that same application to run on HANA. It's quickly possible without touching or changing much of code. You can immediately get that application live on HANA database. So you are not tightly coupled to one particular database or one particular technology. You have freedom to choose at any point of time to move out and move in, hop in and hop out into any technology you want, which is what the biggest benefit you get from the CAPM. Then it's of course a framework which provides a programming model based on CDS core data and services. So if you worked on ABAP CDS, it's a same concept but a different flavor. We will see it in a minute once I create my first CDS. Then you get language support. So we have different variety of language support like JS, Java, and also open source technologies like Python. Then we have libraries and kits, so you can directly install a lot of different libraries and kits inside your development tool, and then you can start straight away start using them. So it does most of the job for you with some small commands, which you will see also in a minute. Once I want to generate a project skeleton, I'm just going to use a small command called cds init, and I'm going to get a ready-made project quickly created for me without really bothering about the dependencies or the bare minimum requirements to develop a project. I'm going to get that out of the box. Then we have tools. So we have choice of tools. Either you can do local development using VS Code, which is what also I'll show you in my next class, or you can directly go ahead to SAP Business Application Studio in Cloud Platform and straight away start using the same. So overall, we will be looking at almost all the direction and aspects towards the CAPM development throughout this training. So what do we see today? So what is our focus for the system demo today? So today we want to build a simple CAPM application to store COVID-19 vaccine data. So as you all know, now we have vaccine and a lot of people are fascinated about the vaccine. So there's a lot of countries who are conducting, historical drives on vaccination. And it's our requirement here now to right now store a vaccination data on cloud into a database and leverage that to expose a service out. So this is what we want to do, we want to achieve now. So what are all the steps throughout this development? So today first we'll start our development tool in step one, which is Business Application Studio. In step two, I'm going to initialize and set up a new project and add my database table. So database table here, it's called an entity. An entity is nothing but database table. So we will add that. Then we will create a service out of that entity, and you will see in a minute how easy it is to build a service on top of your database table with just few lines, and your service will be ready. And then I'm going to showcase this data in a Fiori application so our user can perhaps understand it in a much easier way. So that is what exactly we are going to see in this demo session. So without wasting further time, let me switch over to the demo. So I will go to the system, and here I have my development environment already up and running, which is nothing but called Business Application Studio. And you can get started right away with Business Application Studio. In the next class, I will show you how to set up this development environment in your own computer, and that too with a free trial. So we will be able to practice most of the things in the free trial account. So let's go ahead and create now a new terminal window, and I'm in right now in a projects directory. So from here I will just create a new directory as a project. So let me say mkdir, make a new directory, and I'm going to say my first CAPM project or my first CAPM. I press enter, and right away you can see a new directory has been created, and I'm going to switch inside the directory. So I'll say first CAPM. Now, if you expand this project right now, there's nothing inside that, right? So watch out. The main advantage of using CAPM is with some few commands, learning some few commands, you'll be able to generate the complete project with all the necessary dependencies added to your project automatically. So watch out. So I'm going to go back and say cds.init. Now, what is cds.init? How do we get this command? If I want to do this on locally on my computer, can I get this done? All of that I'm going to talk about in chapter 3, 4, and 5, where you will learn about the getting of this CDS development kit in your local computer, and you can also completely develop this on your local machine. But right now, for demo purpose, I'm right away using this virtual machine or this development environment, which is pre-configured with the necessary tools already installed. So I press enter, and the moment I do that, you can see it has generated automatically the project skeleton for me. So basically it's behind the scene a Node.js project. Now, if you are new to Node.js, do not worry. I'm going to cover a dedicated session, couple of session only on Node.js. So perhaps you are from ABAP background and you have no clue about what Node.js is all about. So we will have a dedicated classes on Node.js. We will cover that also in our training actually. So now, for now, you can see that it has got me some of the necessary dependencies already installed for my project. We really right now do not bother about what's happening, but let's start developing a database table. So can you imagine, I don't have to do anything about the setup or project setup. Everything is automatically included and my project is ready, where I can start focusing on my domain rather than setting up the project. So that's what CAPM takes care here. Now I will start creating a database table. So we will go to database folder, and let me just create a new file here, and I'm going to call it as, let's say, my data model .cds. So .cds is an extension for all or everything you create in the system. So CDS is the preferred way of creating things in the using CAPM model. So now here is where we will define our new entity. Now, one more interesting thing you notice if you go to the bottom, that the moment I will build this project for the first time, I am going to get here automatically a section where I can define my data model. So let me just quickly expand this up a little bit. Yeah, so I'll just move it up. So you see here is my first CAPM project. Yeah, so let me collapse the above one. And now I expand this. So I will not get any data model at the moment. And now I'll go back and add a small database, because this database table needs to be persisted somewhere. Now, for now, I will use a simple uh, in memory database, which is going to be creating like a file system in my project itself. So that's called SQLite database. So let me add the SQLite database. So I'll say npm install SQLite, and that's a new database which is kind of a file system based database which gets added to my project now. So the moment I add it, you can see my package JSON gets changed with a dev dependency on SQLite database. So that's done. Now, as a next step, what we will do is we can just go back and run a just go back and give a namespace for my CDS file. So let me define a namespace, and I'm going to name it as, let's say, anubhav.database, anubhav.db as a namespace. And now I can save and start developing my my database artifacts. So you can see it has created a anubhav.db data model, and then I can just double click here, or I can right click on my CDS file and say open with a CDS graphical modeler. Wow. So that's something nobody will show you in most of the demos which you will go through on CAPM on the internet. So this is where you can now start building a database table like you do it in SE11 in ABAP. So you can click on plus to add a new entity, and let me add an entity name called Covaxin, and I'll say create. So I've got a database table created called Covaxin. That's my database table name. Now, what columns do I want in this? So I already have a CSV file here where I have the demo data already available. So based on this, I'm going to go back and use the data set. So let me just go put the column name. So first one is going to be country. So let's go back and we will add a new field called country. And I mark it as a primary key. Let's say a string of size 100. Then my next field is going to be date, and this is also going to be part of my key as a date data type. Then the next field is total vaccinations, so let me just add that, add a new property to my entity, my database table, and let's say integer to 4. And the next one is fully vaccinated people count. Let's add that. So okay, and then daily vaccination plus. You can also add kind of foreign key relationship and everything. We're going to talk about that more in detail in coming days, but right now I'm just going to go with a very simple one single table in our demo. Then vaccine brand name, so let's put a string of again 100, and that's my database table. Awesome. So it has a composite primary key on country and date, and now I can go ahead and save this. Yes, so I have saved this database table now, and you can see in my first CAPM folder, I have got a anubhav.db, and it has got a Covaxin database table added. So this CAPM model explorer is going to show you all the entities. So if I add one more table in an association or a view, I will be able to explore all the database artifacts right at the bottom. Nice. So that's my step number one. As a next step, what I'm going to do is create a OData service. But before that, we need to load some demo data. So the magic of CAPM is if you create artifacts in CAPM project in a certain format, the CAPM framework understand that format. So what I will now do is I will just import my Excel data in a folder called CSV. So let me create a CSV folder. And then inside this, if I import an Excel sheet on CSV format with the same name as my database table name. So it's anubhav.db as a namespace dash Covaxin, and I'm going to drag and drop that in this CSV folder. Then it's automatically load the data. It is going to load the data in my database table the moment I run my project. That's the beauty of the framework, utilizing a framework is. So let us go ahead and drag our file to this CSV folder. So now I go to my computer folder. I'm going to drag this file right away on my CSV folder, and it's done. Okay, so next step is we want to now model a service. So I want this data to be exposed as a REST service on the internet. So for that, we go to the service folder, and I will add a new CDS file once again. So let me call it as my service.cds, and then we are going to add a new service. So first of all, I need to import my data model, which is defined here on data model.cds. So let me say import, yeah, or sorry, using, and now you see the tool also proposed me all the keywords, and it auto generates the code if I press enter. And then I will just use here my above working directory data model.cds, and then I will give my namespace, say anubhav.db as my, let's say, my model. That's how I can alias it. And then we will define a new service, which is named as my service. I can also choose a different name. I'll show you the power of annotation. So we have a lot of concept like annotations with which the system can change the service name at runtime. And then I will just go back and choose an entity, and I'll say entity, my entity name. So I want to expose an entity called Covaxin, and this is going to be from my model. My database table name is Covaxin. That's all. At the same time, I want this service name to be not kept as this my service, rather it should be kept as a different service name. So I will say path, and then I will give a path, let's say slash srv slash my service or catalog service. We want to give some name to my service, and that will have an entity set called Covaxin. So system is going to create that for you out of the box, and I will save this. And now to run this project, you have to come down and use a command called cds space watch or cds run. So the moment you do this, system is going to read the data model. It's going to deploy that in my SQLite database, my local file system based database, and it's going to insert all the data from the CSV file, because we keep the file name in a certain format. If you keep this in a format, it's going to detect the file and it's going to load the data from Excel every time you run. And then it will also start a service into the cloud with your service name based on your definition. So watch out, I just run CDS run, and you can see the port is already in use, so I can use CDS watch because I was just running something before the session. So I'll say I want to use a different port now, and now I see it's running an application on a different port number. Now what you can simply go back and do is just click on expose and open, and then you can give some name, let's say post CAPM. And wow, there you go. Did you notice the service name now? It's exactly the same which I gave here in the annotation. So that's the power of annotation. So perhaps if you worked on ABAP annotation, similarly we have annotation concept here. As I mentioned, it's the same concept but different flavor. So system understand these annotation and act accordingly to that. And we've got an entity set called Covaxin. I click on it. I can also check the metadata first for my entity, and you can see country, date, vaccinations, and everything. At the same time, I can go to my entity set Covaxin, and voila, you can see I've got my first OData service running in the cloud, and that's the power of the framework. So I really did not bother about how to set up, how to configure, how to do different operations or do different setup or classes and all. I just create a file in a certain format, and system takes care of developing, generating the necessary right runtime artifacts behind the scene and offers me an out of the box service. That's not all. You also now get finally a UI. So you see this little nice button called in Fiori. The moment you click on that, it is going to launch a beautiful Fiori app preview for you for this application. And then I can go ahead and choose the columns, for example, country, date, people fully vaccinated, total vaccination, and vaccines. And then I'll say go, and there you go. You get all the data here. You can search. So I can search, for example, Pfizer. Yes. And then I get all the Pfizer vaccine data right here. For example, I can search India, and then I get all the data for India. So that's a built-in capability which gets it developed automatically, and you get this supported right away by the CAPM. So your development effort got minimized. You get out of the box a lot of these free features. It has a full support for Fiori and HANA database connectivity, which is what also we will be looking at. If you want to perhaps connect to your HANA database HDI container in the cloud platform, we will also be learning all of that more in detail. Of course, maybe some of you finding it little difficult to digest this session. It's absolutely okay and fine, because some of you may not be aware of the open source Node.js based application development or Yeah, so we will be covering Node.js as part of this training. The core Node.js will be covered, so you will get used to also this way of developing and adopting the open source technology. As an ABAP developer, it's also an important skill to be added to your portfolio these days, as the lot of development is focusing on Node.js. So now let's have a quick look at our roadmap for the entire training. This is our project roadmap for the complete training of 40 hours. So we'll start the training in phase one. Phase one, we will understand the architecture of SAP Cloud Platform or SAP Business Technology Platform more in detail, and we will set up our BTP account. We will learn how to configure organizations, sub-organization, how to create entitlements, create sub-accounts, what is a region, what services are offered in different regions, how to set up your business application studio, how to create spaces and assign quotas, create quotas, assign runtime and different services entitlements for the quotas and dev spaces. And then we will learn about basics of what is GitHub, how to set up GitHub, how to create a CI pipeline using Jenkins, so that your application, the moment a push is done in the Git, it's automatically uploaded to the cloud platform. What are all the different build tools like Node Package Manager, NPM, what is NPM repository, what is Maven. So we will be talking about these build tools. Then we will in phase two start with Java based Spring development using Spring Boot. Now I'm sure many of you are from ABAP background. You may be not liking Java or not worked on Java before. Don't worry. This training will be so at from the foundation level that anybody can learn. Somebody who is enthusiastic about technology and have basic programming skills, you can easily go ahead and learn how to develop applications on cloud using Spring Boot as a microservice. Then you will learn the microservice architecture with Spring Boot and deploy it to the Cloud Foundry. We will learn how to connect to Elephant database, the PostgreSQL database, work with VCAP services to bind to the runtime instances of your backing services. We'll talk about scaling of application. In phase three, we will start with introduction of Node.js. We'll talk about what is Node.js, what is Express, what is package.js, package.json file, different files like CDS, RC, JSON, manifest, YAML file, MTA YAML file, all these files and their structure, app router. We will talk about security concepts, including access UAA and app router, how to binding happens with the IDP, how the token exchange happens, what is JOT token, what is the Cloud Foundry security concepts, how to create roles, role templates, scopes, and manage them in the Cloud Foundry. Then we will talk about connection to HANA database. We'll build HANA containers. SAP Cloud Platform offers you free trial on HANA service. HANA is a service where you can create a HANA instance in the cloud and you can connect your application to that to store the table. So what we saw today was SQLite. The same thing, same project can run on HANA with few options added to your project, and that's all. You don't have to change radically your complete code. That's the benefit you get with CAPM. Then in the last phase, we'll talk about CAPM, CAPM end-to-end development, including CAPM programming model and CDS concept, complete CAPM with services, annotations, security concepts, Fiori UI development with Business Application Studio, and then we will also utilize the local Visual Studio Code, VS Code, to develop a CAPM application locally in our environment. We'll see how to set up our environment locally, test application, and then deploy to the Cloud Foundry, so anybody can use these applications from anywhere in the world. Then we have creating also the S4HANA extension at the end. I'm going to create an overview on S4HANA extension. How do you consume APIs using SAP Node.js based Cloud SDK, and build a side-by-side extension to your SAP S4HANA system. So that will be all in all the entire phase, all four phases of the training. So you will become actually a cloud development professional by the end of this training on BTP, and you can then basically develop all sorts of application, especially if you are in an architect role or solution architect role. It's quite important for you to know end-to-end the big picture, and also have some depth knowledge on how do you develop applications on cloud, what synergies you can make out in your company when there is a business need which is asked, what are the best practices and gold standard when it comes to developing microservices. So that will be the overall structure of the course. So I hope you enjoyed this demo session. and the batch is already started today. Tomorrow is our next class. If you're willing to sign up this training, please send us an email on contact@anubhavtrainings.com and we will be able to help you out right away. With that, Anubhav signing out. Thank you so much for watching this demo session. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe this video, and I'll see you in the next class. Goodbye.